Joining me now is Matthew Parks, Cosatu Parliamentary Coordinator. Matthew, appreciate your time this afternoon. How does Cosatu view the current state of the government of national unity in South Africa? It's been a few months, obviously, so talk to us about your thoughts.
Well, good afternoon. Look, I think it's still early days. They've been in office about roughly a month or so. But look, I think first we have a lot of hopes on it. The challenge facing South Africans, facing workers in particular, from a 42% unemployment rate to entrenched levels of poverty and inequality, to really endemic levels of crime and corruption, struggling public services from departments to municipalities and so forth. I think they're huge challenges. I think society, especially workers and Cosatu members, correctly expect government to do a lot and to do so quickly. It's still, early days, and naturally there will be some media headlines about this minister saying that or that minister saying this. I think for us, that's not really the issue. The issue is, can we grow the economy? And I think we're going to find quite soon we need to see government moving with great speed. We need to move out of a space where we've seen for the past year unemployment rising each quarter. We need now to see unemployment falling each quarter. We need to see the Reserve Bank reducing the repo rate. And because society really has said, and I think they've shown quite clearly in the elections, that they are exhausted, they are tired of politicians bickering, and they're tired of departments, politicians in government not delivering. So there's huge expectations. I don't think we're really that concerned about which minister is doing what. I think what we're really concerned about, can we see the queues at Home Affairs being reduced? Can we see policemen giving the resources they need to tackle crime? Can we see the economy growing? And I think there are some pockets of progress that we cheer on, that we compliment, we commend. Like, for example, the remarkable turnaround on electricity at Eskom. We've seen some progress over the past few months at Transnet. But equally, there are areas that we're very, very concerned about. For example, what are at best some dysfunctional municipalities. So it's a difficult thing, but I think maybe lastly to say that there is no honeymoon period. Society is watching closely, and I think politicians would be wise to remember that there are local elections in less than 2 years' time, and that's when society will cast its judgment ultimately on how the GNU performs.
Matthew, I'm interested to know how you are navigating your relationship and expectations with the ANC, because you are their alliance partner, but the government is not entirely in the hands of the ANC, as it was previously. It is now a government of national unity. Do your expectations remain the same, or are they reduced? Because the sphere of influence, if you will, of the ANC, as you suggested, there are several other political parties, other political players that are running separate ministries.
Our expectations actually are higher, just because the challenge facing workers are that much greater. Look, fundamentally, we have to address, and government has to respond to the conditions workers face on the ground: unemployment, poverty, inequality, struggling public services, and so on. That's what they've got to respond to. We don't really mind, and we're not losing sleepless nights on whether that minister is from the IFP, from the UDM, from the PA, the DA, FF+, whoever it is. Ultimately, they all have to deliver. There can't be a blank check because a minister is from the FF+, therefore we won't consider us of that portfolio. We are meeting with all ministers, whether they're from the ANC, whether they're from Al-Jamaa, it doesn't matter. We're meeting all of them because we expect all of them to deliver a better life to South Africans, especially to working class communities. And yes, it is a GNU of about 10 or 11 parties. It needs to be stable, it needs to be coherent. And they also need to remember that the policy mandate ultimately is the Constitution, is the laws of the Republic. And of course, largely it is the ANC's election manifesto. Look, there are going to be some teething challenges because many of these parties have come from a life on opposition benches where you simply had to issue, statements condemning government for this or that. They've now got to transition into the hard, difficult business of governing a state, often under very severe conditions. But we do have highest expectations for the ANC, from our alliance partner, to lead. And that means it's got to deal with the critical issues of giving support to Eskom and Transnet and Metro Rail, to rebuilding local government, to expanding public employment programs to help people, especially young people, enter the labour market, and to really ensure that we move away from some of the painful austerity budget cuts affecting public services in the medium-term budget statement. So there's a lot riding on it. We have committed ourselves to working closely with our alliance partners who are in cabinet, the ANC, the South African Communist Party. But ultimately, at the end of the day, we need to see life improving for workers. That's what the real objective is. We don't have the luxury of time. And even beyond party loyalty, as a country, I think we all need to see South Africa turning the corner. We've gone through a very painful decade of state capture and corruption under previous administration. We are beginning to turn that corner, but I think we also need to move with much greater speed, because at times government does move too slowly, and society does correctly expect government to do more and much faster.
Now, Helen Zille's always seemed to have been a pain in the side of the ANC. Do you attribute the suggested tension between the DA and ANC within the GNU to Helen Zille? I mean, the comments that she's made, where she has said that this is a coalition, and she's described the GNU as a coalition between the DA and the ANC, instead of calling it a GNU.
Yeah, look, I mean, even when it was just the ANC government, there were always tensions between the ANC and its alliance partners, Cosatu, even within the ANC. That's natural. It's obviously going to be much more complicated, much more messy at times, and even contradictory at times when you have a government national unity of about 10 or 11 parties. And some go from the extreme right of Afrikaner nationalism of the Freedom Front Plus, and others, go to the extreme left of the PIC. So there always is going to be challenges. They need to be managed delicately. Politicians need to be a little bit more mature and sober. Perhaps we can underline that part. But ultimately, workers don't really care whether your T-shirt is orange or yellow or green. As a minister, they want to see, can you deliver quality public services? Can we end the queues at Home Affairs? Can we ensure that our hospitals fill the vacancies of nurses, of doctors, of paramedics, etc.? Can we make sure that those who steal from the state, irrespective of what T-shirt they wear, go to prison? There will be contradictions. And look, politically, yes, sure, it's entertaining to discuss, is it a GNU, is it a coalition? Look, reality is that it's not a coalition, it is a GNU. The ANC has the numbers with the DA on the one hand, but also has the numbers to form government on its own with the smaller parties of the UDM, the IFP, the PA, PIC, etc., etc. But look, the average clothing worker, Mitchell's Plain, wants to see electricity provided to a clothing factory so she knows she can earn a salary. The same clothing worker wants to know that Metro Rail is working and she's safe as a woman to enter the trains. And she also wants to make sure that her police station is capacitated to deal with crime in Mitchell's Plain, etc. So I think ultimately that's what we will judge government on, not by what people say on Twitter or social media, but what they deliver to working class communities on the ground. And I think for us, that's where politicians must focus, less on the theatrics of politics, but more on delivering to society at large.
Matthew, walk us through your relationship, or the Cosatu's relationship with the other political parties, because you've talked about the expectations of the members that you represent. Now, whilst it was an ANC government, you had one point of contact, but there are multiple parties to this GNU. Have you built a relationship? Do you have a relationship with any other members of the GNU outside of the ANC?
Look, it's a work in progress. There are always contradictions in society. But look, also remember that Cosatu is in alliance with the ANC, with the South African Communist Party. That's where our political allegiance lays. But we have members who vote for every single political party under the sun. We have members in KwaZulu-Natal who've always voted for the IFP. We have members in Cape Town who've long voted for the DA. We're a diverse, organization. People join Cosatu and our affiliates because they want to defend the rights of the workplace. That it is our unions which are on the ground in the sector. There is no union, for example, for an ACDP or FF Plus or whomever it is voted. So they join Cosatu. We have, our unions have, for example, some who has long operated in sectors where other political parties, be it the DA or the IFP, run municipalities, so they've had to engage in negotiating those. Our affiliates already are meeting with the different ministers. So I know, for example, Nahar, which organizes workers at the Home Affairs, has met with the Minister of Home Affairs to see how can they improve the conditions of workers at Home Affairs, fill vacancies, improve productivity, deliver quality public services to workers. At Parliament, for example, for years we've had to deal with political parties because there always has been a dozen plus parties. And some of the legislation we managed to achieve in the 5th and the 6th Parliament has often actually been first drafted by an ACDP like paternity leave, or the DA like tackling corruption, the PIC, or COPE dealing with the issue of same-sex marriages. And we've gone as Cosatu to go and engage with our ally, the ANC and the Communist Party who've led Parliament.
Sorry, Matthew, if you'll allow me to come in there, you've given us a historic perspective. Let's talk about the current perspective, because what's obviously shifted is that the DA, for instance, looks after basic education. They didn't before. So the conversation is likely to be different. Walk us through those new relationships or those new engagements. And are you getting the reception that you're looking for? Where are you in those conversations?
No, yeah, that's also the issue we're coming from. So some affiliates have already begun those discussions. So the Basic Education Minister, Cosatu, and the other teacher unions have met with her. In Home Affairs, Nahau and others have met with the Minister of Home Affairs. We've also had some discussion with other ministers like Minister for Public Works and Infrastructure. And of course, I know some of our unions in the Public Service Bargaining Council have already met with the new Minister of Public Service, and I'm sure some will soon be meeting with the Minister of Culture. So that's the reality. We have to do so. We can't simply ignore a minister because they come from a party which we don't agree with historically and politically. We've got to meet with those persons because they have a legal mandate. They're appointed by the president of the country to deliver. And when they do well, we'll cheer them on and we will work with them to achieve common objectives. And of course, where they fail, just as we would with ANC ministers, we'll hold them accountable as well. So there won't be any fundamental change. Yes, it is a bit of a political, cultural adjustment. It's not always going to be easy because you don't have a personal relationship with a new minister from whichever party. But the challenges facing workers and society at large require us to do so, and we will do so. And when they do well, we will support them. And when they fail, we'll obviously, hold them accountable as well.